Why do weaker managers keep getting promoted while stronger ones like you stay stuck? I've been managing for 13 years and I got passed over twice because I hated playing politics and I thought my work would speak for itself. It wasn't until I learned the rules of the game and stopped playing fair that I finally broke through to director. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 of the most important laws from the book 48 Laws of Power and how you can use them to navigate workplace politics, give yourself an unfair advantage, and win your next promotion. So why is it that you're amazing at your job and still not even considered for promotions? Well, if you're great at your job, you may be breaking law number 1 and not even realizing it. Once you fix this, you'll finally be removing that invisible barrier that's been holding you back. So how do you do that? Well, here's an easy way to understand how this works. I want you to picture this. Your partner walks into the wedding wearing a flawless white wedding dress. Her hair's perfect, veil on, she looks stunning. But here's the problem. It's not her wedding. For a moment, everyone stares, they whisper, and they wonder what the heck is going on. But the bride, she's thinking, who the hell does this think she is? And from that moment on, it's over. You're kicked out before the ceremony even starts. Doesn't matter how perfect she looked, she broke the rule. You don't outshine the bride at her own wedding. And at work, you don't outshine your boss. That's why you follow law number 1, never outshine the master. Because if your boss feels threatened, they'll hold you back instead of lifting you up. Now, I know what you're thinking. Your boss should just have thicker skin and not feel threatened by you because you do such a good job, and you're right. The problem is, in reality, your boss is also a human and they're struggling with their own shortcomings and may not be as secure as you. So knowing this, if you want to get promoted, you have to observe this law. So how do you do that? Well, in a Harvard study of leadership promotions, managers who aligned their work with their boss's goals were rated 31% more promotable than peers who focused only on their own performance. So this is critical to get down. All you need to do is follow the 3S formula. First, spotlight up. Frame updates in terms of your own boss's priorities, not just your own. For example, in your next one-on-one, you want to share the update and tie it directly to your boss's key performance indicators. That shows that you're pushing their goals forward. Second, share credit. When praise comes your way, don't just take it. Redirect some of it upward and point out your boss's role or vision. So this week, if someone compliments your work, just say something like, "This was actually part of the direction my boss set for us." That framing keeps you as someone safe and not threatening. And then third, just be a strategic supporter. Don't just manage your team, take on the problems that make your boss look successful. So this week, literally ask them, what's one thing I can take off your plate this month? And that shifts you from being a competitor to a trusted partner. Now, I know what you're going to say in the comments that this is brown-nosing, but you're not brown-nosing. You're just trying to be an ally for your boss. So don't take this too far and don't go crazy with it, but show them that you are on their team, because that's how you go from being threatening to being trusted, and trust is what gets you promoted. But even with your boss on your side, there might be another unseen force holding you back from moving up, and it's going to be from the last place you expect it. So what's holding you back from getting promoted? Well, the best example of this is looking at what happened when Facebook was first founded. Back when Facebook was first starting, Mark Zuckerberg's co-founder, Eduardo Saverin, thought he was set for life. He talked openly about his role, his influence, his expectations, but his ambitions made him look like a rival power center. And Zuckerberg, he took notice. When the company took off, Zuckerberg quietly diluted Eduardo's shares, effectively pushing him out of the company. Severin went from co-founder to almost erased, all because he revealed too much too soon to the person he worked beside every day. That's the reality of work too. Oversharing your ambitions doesn't always earn you respect. Sometimes it makes the people right next to you see you as competition. So this is why you need to follow law number 2, which is you need to conceal your intentions. Because the more openly you share your roadmap, the easier it is for others to use it against you. And this isn't about hiding forever. It's just being intentional. So you want to share your plans with the people who can help you, not the coworkers sitting beside you who might compete with you. So how do you do that? Well, you just simply want to use what I call the ambition pyramid. So we start at the bottom. This is the widest part of the pyramid, and this is basically most people in your company. And here's the rule. They get nothing. No talk about your ambitions, no hints at your next move. For this group, your results do the talking. Well, why? Because results can't be twisted. They're proof, and proof is safe. Now we move up one level, your boss and your peers. With them, you still don't open the playbook. Instead, you keep the spotlight on current results and impact. You show them how you're driving today's wins, but not tomorrow's titles. That way, they see your value without feeling like you're competing for their future role. And then finally, we have the very top of the pyramid, and that's the smallest layer. You only share them with a few people who can actually move the needle for you, whether it's a mentor, a sponsor, or people who actually make the decisions on promotions, because they'll use that information to pull you up, not push you out. And that's how you stop giving people ammo against you and start positioning yourself for a promotion. But even if you keep your goals protected from your coworkers, there's still one thing that can hold you back. Not because of your results, not because of your skills, but because of something far smaller and far harder to control. But by using what I'm about to show you, you can lock in your promotion by controlling the one thing most people never can. So how do you do that? Well, think about it. Every manager is judged not just on what they deliver, but how they're perceived. People aren't keeping a spreadsheet of all your wins. They remember impressions. They remember the little details, and they remember stories and those things that stick. Let me ask you this. How much of what I've said so far have you actually heard? Or are you sitting there wondering, what the f*** is going on with his shirt? Well, actually, believe it or not, that's exactly how your reputation works. It doesn't matter how good your ideas are, or how smart you sound, or even how well you perform. If there's one thing off, that's what people fixate on. One stain, one whisper, one careless moment, and it's all that they see. And that's why Law 3 is so critical, which is guard your reputation with your life. Because reputation isn't a part of the game, it is the game. A survey of senior leaders found that reputation is one of the top 3 factors in promotion decisions, often ranking above raw performance. So how do you protect your reputation to make sure you get promoted? Well, here's how you protect your reputation so it works for you instead of against you. First, you need to define your one line. Unfortunately, people will always shrink you down to a single sentence, so it's up to you to shape it. Decide this week what you want that line to be, and you're going to write it down and make sure that every action you take reinforces that line, because that's how you start controlling your story. Second, you have to keep your word. Nothing destroys a reputation faster than broken trust. So here's your move for this week. Double check one commitment before you make it public. Under promise and over deliver. That's what makes you look reliable and not risky. And then finally, stay out of gossip. Good Lord, stay out of gossip. Every time you join the wrong conversation, you're giving people ammo against you. Instead, you need to build allies and talk to the right people who will defend you when you're not in the room. So this week, avoid those poisonous gossip circles and put that energy into strengthening one key relationship. Because here's the truth, your reputation will always shrink down to one line. So make sure it's a line that gets you promoted. But even if your reputation is flawless, there's still another reason managers get overlooked. One that has nothing to do with how good you are and everything to do with something that most managers never think about. So what is quietly holding you back from your promotion? Well, I'll show you how this works by playing a quick game with you. I'm going to flash 2 pages of text for 3 seconds, and your only job is to remember one word. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, what word did you remember? Of course, promotion, right? And I can hear you already. You're like, that's not fair. You highlighted it. You drew my attention straight to it. Well, exactly. It wasn't the most important word. It was just the one that got the spotlight. And at work, it's the same. If you don't highlight your wins, they get buried. But when you do, people can't miss them. And that brings us to law number 4. Court attention at all costs. Because if your work isn't visible, it doesn't exist. Research actually shows that managers who focus on high visibility strategic projects are far more likely to be tapped for director roles than those buried in day-to-day tasks. So how can you make sure that the work you're doing is moving you closer to promotions? Well, you want to run your work through what's called the 10x funnel. First, we have the top of the funnel. This is your negative 10x work. This is just busy work. So this is like your emails, your admin, the overhelping. It clogs the funnel, it eats your time, and it drags your reputation down. The more you highlight this, the more invisible you become. Then we have the middle part of the funnel. This is your 2x work. These are solid improvements, but they're small. These are your reports filed, the tweaking of processes, meeting your deadlines, which are necessary but forgettable. This is where most managers stop, and it makes you look dependable but not promotable. Then we have the bottom of the funnel. This is your 10x work. This is where your spotlight belongs. This is the big, high visibility wins, the new clients, the major savings, the strategic projects. These are the results that cut through the noise and stick in people's minds. So if you want a promotion, these are the wins that you highlight. So this week, I want you to write down your negative 10x tasks you're working on and cut them, delegate them, or just stop highlighting them altogether. Then you're going to drop one of your 2x tasks from your updates, and then I want you to find the biggest 10x win this month and make sure that the people responsible for promotions see it. When you run your work through this 10x funnel, you stop looking like you're just busy and start looking like leadership material. And leadership is what gets you promoted. But here's the messed up twist. You can protect your reputation, you can make your wins visible, you can even have senior leaders noticing your work, but you'll still get passed over because there's something else they're looking at, something that has nothing to do with results on paper. So what is the hidden factor holding you back from moving up? Well, I'll show you how this works, and you just need to go back and think about the last time you had an interview for a position you were trying to fill. Imagine you have two candidates walking in, same resumes, same skills, same experience on paper, but one of them, there was just something about the way they carried themselves, whether it was the eye contact, the way they spoke, and you just thought to yourself, man, this person feels different. This is going to be my winner. And the other candidate, he's just as qualified, but there was something you couldn't put your finger on that just didn't feel right. At work, promotions work the same way. It's not always the smartest or the hardest worker that gets picked. It's the one who already feels like a leader before the title shows up. And that's why you need to follow law number 5, act like a king to be treated like one. Because when you show up with presence, people just don't see you as helpful, they feel like you're ready. Executives consistently cite executive presence as a top factor in director promotions, sometimes even above technical ability. One leadership study calls it the it factor, and it's that mix of confidence, clarity, and composure that makes people feel like you're ready. So how can you give off the it factor? Well, you'll want to use the 3 P's of leadership, or as I call it, First, you want to sit tall and project your voice and cut out filler words. So this week, test this out and record yourself speaking. And when you play it back, notice if you sound crisp and confident or rushed and unsure. That one shift will change how people see you in the room. And the second P is point. And what I mean by that is in every meeting, you can't just sit back. You need to make one clear strategic point. So this week, walk into your next meeting with one strong point prepared in advance. Say it, then stop, and watch how the room pays more attention to you. And then finally, positioning. Stop framing your work as tasks and start framing it as outcomes. You want to swap out the "we finished the project" for "we drove growth by 8%. So try it once this week and you'll notice how different people treat you. Because leaders don't wait for the title, they carry themselves like it's already theirs. But even if you navigate office politics like a pro, you're still at risk of sabotaging your promotion by making one simple mistake. And that's when you protect your employees. So go watch this video next and I'll show you how protecting your employees is holding you back and what to do instead to make sure you get your next promotion.